This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
The Energy Committee at the House of Representatives heard this week that the LNG import project at Vassiliko not only won't be ready by year's end, as previously promised, but that a timetable for its completion will not even be submitted for several months yet. It's a subject we've spoken about many times on the programme, and we're going to concentrate this week on where we go from here when there is no end in sight for the Vassiliko terminal. Countless mistakes, it seems, have been made along the way since the project was first mooted.
In our wisdom, when I went out for tendering this project, we prescribed that the terminal should not just be capable to regasify the gas, the LNG, into gas and send it to EAC, but should also be capable of handling our own gas from our own EZ, liquefying it and exporting it as LNG. And this is absolutely diabolical.
I was amazed when I read the newspaper earlier this week and saw a title that said, "No end in sight for Vassiliko LNG terminal." Now, I'm not sure how many years we've been talking about this with my guest on this week's programme, Charles Ellinas. He's an energy expert. Charles, do you remember when we first started talking about this? It is a very long time, and it seems we're getting nowhere near the end.
Well, it's a very, very long time. This particular project, we started talking about it in 2018. Obviously, the whole idea to import LNG for power generation started much earlier, but in 2010, if you probably remember, Shell had a proposal that it was eventually scuppered in Parliament. But this particular project started its life in 2018. It should have started as a project in 2020. We are in 2025, and as you said, we have now this publication, this article, telling us that there is no end in sight. But Rosie, since then, there has been another article implying that they are panicking and they're trying to do something about it. I think it sounds as if the president got the whip out and told them to think again. So the new article says that on Saturday, DEFA, ETIFA, and the ministry are getting together to have a long meeting to see how they can recover the project and start earlier than leaving it open-ended.
Well, let's hope they certainly do that, but I want to go through point by point. I highlighted so many things from this article. The first one was that at the meeting at the Parliament, because that's where this all came out, it was said that it would not only not be ready by year's end, as previously promised, but that the timetable for its completion will not be submitted for several months yet. And my first thought was, how did we possibly appoint a project manager who didn't submit a timetable? If you're going to ask somebody to do a project, isn't one of the first things you ask, especially since we've had so many delays, when will you complete it?
Well, let's be fair on the project manager. The project manager themselves could not give a timetable because they didn't have the history of the project. That information, all the documents, all the information about this particular project was made available to them only after their appointment. They have looked into all of that, apparently thousands of documents, and threw their arms up in the air and said, "Oh my God, we cannot come up with a plan that fast. We need time to go through all of these." and the indication was that they would need 10 months to study all of the information and come back with their recommendations on how to finish the project.
Wouldn't it have made more sense, Charles, for whoever was in charge of this to give all this documentation to half a dozen different people and say, if you're interested in being project manager, come back with definitive answers?
But then it would have taken time for the companies to review the information and come back and bid for it. And I'm not, at this stage, I'm not too worried about that. I think by fluke or by design, the government has appointed a company that has a good reputation, is a good project manager, and I think can help bring the project forward. I think what needs to be done is to strip the project of all of the past history and problems and give the project manager the support it needs to produce a plan. What I saw in the article yesterday is that we're still going back to the same sort of tried and failed plans. The article said they're still looking at handing over construction of the terminal to two of the contractors that were part of the previous joint venture, because by doing that, they don't need to go through tendering. But then that is prone to problems. One problem is that the new contractor has to take the responsibility and liability for the works done so far. And I'm not so sure the contractor would be willing to do that without a hefty compensation or without somebody taking the risk away from them. And the second problem is that the materials and equipment required to complete the project are still, at least legally, they still belong to the Chinese consortium. So how is that going to be done? How are they going to possession all of this equipment and materials? How is the new contractor going to overcome the liability problems and come back and do the project and finish it within a short length of time? There are too many questions open, and I expect this meeting on Saturday to be a very difficult one. I'm not absolutely sure they can come up with clear answers, but I hope they can.
Right, well, let's just follow on from what you said about the contractor, because in actual fact, I think all of this is still under arbitration in London. Is that right? And I wasn't going to bring this up, but you have. So how long is that going to take?
Well, I think the arbitration process is still going through loops. So the Chinese contractor has resubmitted its case, increasing the demand. Our side needs to respond sometime this year. So I can imagine that the arbitration will take another 2 or 3 years before it reaches a conclusion, unless, of course, the two sides, by some means, agree to sit together and try to sort out the problems and come to an agreement without waiting for the court in London to tell them what the result is.
Okay, let's move on to the FSRU, the Floating Storage and Regasification Unit. Now, that is a very important part of the project. And currently, I think I'm right in saying it's still in Malaysia because 2 of the components are missing, and they're going to cost us, somewhere between 8 and 9 million euros to come up with.
Correct. Dollars. Correct. Yes.
Dollars. Okay. And the problem is that, as far as I knew, originally we said that it was going to be an LNG carrier and an FSRU, and we now apparently find out, because I think it was the man from DEFA, the Natural Gas Public Company, who said that it's costing 367,000 euros a month while it's in Malaysia, but we have now a problem because apparently it's no longer possible for it to be, or it never was possible for it to be certified as both an LNG carrier and an FSRU. Well, didn't we check that before we asked for certification?
I have no idea what has transpired, but I will be happy if before the end of the year the vessel is certified as an FSRU, because that's the primary use of the vessel in future. We want it to come to Cyprus at some stage when the terminal is ready, function as an FSRU, and help us import LNG. And that's the primary function. There is another angle that, I'm glad you mentioned this, another angle that needs to be sorted out. In our wisdom, when I went out for tendering this project, we prescribed that the terminal should not just be capable to regasify the gas, the LNG, into gas and send it to EAC, but should also be capable of handling our own gas from our own EZ, liquefying it and exporting it as LNG. And this is absolutely diabolical because there is no chance that we will be exporting LNG in the foreseeable future. And there is also very low likelihood that if any companies like ExxonMobil at some future date decide to think about exporting LNG, they will go and use this terminal. So since we have the project manager and the project manager is looking at how to complete the project, he should disentangle the LNG export element, get it out of the way, that way reduce the cost of the terminal and simplify the construction and hopefully help do it earlier.
Who is going to get then? Is it our EAC that's going to receive any of the gas that we do manage to have?
There are two companies, the EAC and the 250 megawatt plant that a company called PEC has built at Vassiliko.
Let's be
private company.
Let's be optimistic and hope that this is actually going to come to pass, well, before what, 2030 it looks like we're looking at now, does it? And
no. It should be before that, hopefully.
Well, yes, but there's nothing that's coming out at the moment, Charles, that suggests we can get a handle on this. That's what bothers me.
It's not rocket science, Rosie. It should be possible to complete this project by the end of next year, but at worst, I hope that it can be done 2027. If we achieve 2027, I will still be happy, even though the Cypriot consumer will still be paying a high cost for electricity. But by 2027, LNG prices are expected to come down even further. There is a lot of new LNG coming into the market over the next few years. And I estimate that the price of LNG may be about a third less by 2027. So if we are ready, we can benefit from that.
How will we benefit? Are we going to import LNG from elsewhere then? Where's it going to come from?
No, we can buy it from the market. There is plenty of LNG coming into the market. We can enter into long-term contracts and buy it from the market, regasify it, send it to AC, and produce electricity. Let me give you an example of a country similar to us that started at about the same time talking about bringing LNG to produce power, and that is Malta. Malta also is a small island, also isolated, also was using diesel and heavy fuel oil to produce electricity, and decided in the last decade to go into gas. And they did it. In 2017, they started importing LNG, and their price of electricity went down by 50% as a result. And they have been buying LNG on the market at long-term contracts at reasonable prices, much lower than the cost of heavy fuel oil and diesel. And since 2017, the Maltans have been paying half the price of electricity that we do, purely because they said they will go to importing gas, LNG, and they did it. We have been talking and talking, trying, failing, and we're still talking, and we are not doing it. In the meanwhile, our price of electricity is twice as high, more than twice as high as Malta's.
Okay, let's talk now, please, about the land-based facilities at Vassiliko. You've just said we need to simplify them. One can hope, I guess, that the hired private consultant, a French company, with apparently, according to the newspaper, a reputation for finishing half-completed projects, is going to come up with the solutions. We're apparently waiting for those. Will they then pass those suggested solutions on to the project manager?
They are the project manager. It's the French company have this dual role. First of all, to review the project and propose how it should be completed, and then to project manage the completion of the project. And I assure you, this company, the name of the company is Technip, is one of the best in Europe. I know the company from my past involvement in the sector, and I have faith that they will help us, provided we use them properly and not end up doing the usual of bringing a company with good reputation, good experience, but instead of listening to them, we tell them what to do.
And this again comes back to who's the subcontractor and whether we go with the one that formerly was with this Chinese consortium. Well,
and that's why I said there are the advantage of going that way is that according to DIFA's lawyers, they don't need to go through a new tendering process, which, as you know, in Cyprus is a nightmare. They avoid that. But then the problem is for this new contractor to accept liability for the work and responsibility for the work done so far and get possession of the equipment and materials that the Chinese contractor has still legal ownership of. And if we don't do that, then it will become a complicated process and part of the arbitration process.
Now, interestingly, the energy minister was quoted as saying that if the private sector had been in charge, the project would have been done in a year. Does that suggest that the way we do things here, with how many different departments involved in tiddly little bits here and there and everywhere, are actually... It's totally counterproductive because they don't talk to each other or they make agreements with other people and don't tell each other, and that's where the problem lies.
And they also don't have the right experience, I'm afraid. The experience needed to do a project like this does not reside within the government organizations responsible for the project. And I agree with the minister that if it was a completely private project, it wouldn't last that long.
What can be done, Charles? I mean, I know you say we've still got to wait for, well, the arbitration. Let's hope that that's not really involved in this stage of Vassiliko. But what really is next? Have we got to wait for this French firm to read through all those papers and come up with its suggestions? And indeed, what do you expect that meeting on Saturday between our movers and shakers here in Cyprus to achieve?
That's my recommendation, that we have appointed the right company. We should allow the company the time it needs to review the project and come back and propose how it should be done and how it should be completed. Give us a firm timetable to do that. If it's 2027, so be it. And then allow them to manage it and deliver it, not to interfere by panicking by our politicians panicking right now and start telling them what to do, and ending up we have concocted measures that are bound to lead to failure yet again. So instead of actually panicking and saying, we said this should be done by the end of the year or early next year, let's go and do something to achieve that, and that something is not proper, let's not do that. Let's allow our new project manager to come up with a proper plan, take ownership, and deliver it. We don't have the experience to deliver projects like this. We appointed a company that has. Let them do it for us. And if it takes a bit longer, so be it.
But in the meantime, no sign of any change to the prices of electricity here in Cyprus.
Absolutely no sign, because the prices, I'm afraid, the price of oil and the price of mazout and diesel will remain high. And as a result, our price of electricity will remain high. And despite the fact that as much as 25% of the electricity comes from renewables, as you know, we see zero benefit from that, because renewables are being charged just below the price of conventional electricity. So I'm afraid until this project is complete, we are not going to see any major benefit in terms of the price of electricity. It will remain high. And it's a sad outcome of the history of this project and our history in handling this kind of projects. But what else can we do? At this stage, it's too late to pull rabbits out of hats.
In the meantime, another rabbit that needs pulling out of a different hat is the problem of containment of renewables, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, so that certainly we should proceed with the installation of batteries to be able to store excess electricity and use it to smooth this up and down of electricity production from photovoltaics. But even that is, as you know, is running into problems, vested interests. Everybody wants to get control. The minister has the right ideas. I hope he's firm enough to go and actually do what he said he will do and get these batteries installed in the near future, and that there will be benefit. But whether that leads to a reduction in the price of electricity, I very much doubt it, because as long as the price of electricity is being charged just below conventional electricity, batteries or no batteries, we're not going to see a major benefit. And the new market model we're introducing, the opening of the market, it's not going to help very much. I think it will establish or cast the current system in stone for longer. We need to think again about how do we run our electricity market? What is the best way to do it? I'm not so sure the current model is the best.
The other thing that interests me is the fact that despite the fact that we have all this wasted renewable energy, which is getting dumped with containment, we're still seeing all sorts of things in the press about applications for huge new solar parks. And it seems that we're approving some of them. And I can't think why we would do that until are we putting the cart before the horse again?
We definitely are. I mean, the reason we see all these applications is because the price of renewable electricity is so high that everybody wants to benefit. Those who did it have become super rich. They made a huge amount of money out of these projects. They write off their investment within a very short length of time. And then from there onwards, they are laughing to the bank with exorbitant rates. I mean, they charge electricity at about 25 cents per kilowatt hour, but it costs them something like 5, 6, 7 cents to do it. So everybody wants to do it. I'm afraid, though, that without batteries, our grid system cannot accept more than about 25% renewable electricity. So if you add more, you curtail more.
Yeah, well, that was
So
my
it's
point. I mean, why
it's
don't we...
futile.
I get the feeling that the government should just write checks for all these people who are applying and let them miss out them. I'm sorry. It's extraordinary to me, Charles, that we are not joining those dots. We don't need more solar power until we can use what we've got.
Yep, we don't need, certainly it's not going to improve our statistics. That 25% may improve a bit, but not a lot, until the battery storage system is in place. That then will help have more renewables. But, as I said, it will only benefit those companies who sell renewable electricity, not the consumer, because the price is still maintained exorbitantly high.
Well, I guess everybody in Cyprus is well aware of that point. Once again, I'm almost gobsmacked as we finish talking, because it seems to me we repeat ourselves, as you said, since 2018 or whenever it was. We will, you seem to think, get there in the end. Let's hope so.
Well, it's not a rocket science project. As I said before, a private company would have done it a long time. It's not a difficult project. It's a simple project. With a proper project manager in place, and we have one, if we support them, they should be able to deliver it. And as I said, 2027, if that is the end date, so be it. At least let's go and do it.
Well said. Charles Elinas, he's an energy expert, a regular on our Cyprus News Digest. Once again, Charles, many thanks for your time.
Thank you, Rosie.
This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
The biggest achievement of Crime Stoppers has been the ability of the public to be able to give information about crime anonymously.
There's no way I could have kept prostituting without the drugs. There's no way I could have had my body used like a public toilet, because that's actually what prostitution is.
And then the fourth series I started 3 days after I'd won the Oscar, so the whole of the Monarch of the Glen experience was all interplatted with the Gosford Park Oscar experience.
I was working with Ronnie James Dio, and David was going to reform Whitesnake in 2003.
Cyprus was chosen because Cyprus is a stable, peaceful and secure place.
We have to really look closely. What are we doing with children? What are we doing with adolescents? And what are we doing with adults that can help them move into a more literate situation?
The ones that I'm proudest of are the ones that were true discoveries, where we found something we didn't know existed.
And just before I go, demonstrators gathered again outside Parliament last night as they were debating a very controversial law which will in effect ban protests unless the organisers get permission at least a week in advance from the police. And that means that the way the police work here, it's very unlikely that anybody who wants to organise a demonstration would be able to get permission in time, and therefore they and the demonstrators would be breaking the law. There's a lot of anger about this from surprisingly few Cypriots who don't seem to realise the significance of what the authorities are trying to do to muzzle any opposition.
We were told that this particular bill is number 70-something on the agenda, and currently they're in the 40s. So there's a chance that it won't be discussed until tomorrow morning. We know it's going to pass regardless of what we're saying out here. From what I've been hearing is that they don't have the votes to stop it from passing.
And the chant went up, which says, roughly, because they used a rather naughty word for part of it, but basically it's saying neither bills before Parliament or that naughty word for stupidities will have an effect, because if we want to, we will demonstrate, we will march. Word was from the MPs I've spoken to that probably the Akel party and Volt will vote against this bill, but we can expect DC, Deepa, Elam, the far right of course, and anybody else supporting the government to push it through. Now, what will happen when it actually comes into force, we'll have to wait and see. Well, that about wraps up this edition of the Cyprus News Digest. Many thanks for your company. Hope you'll join me next week. Till we meet again, take care and God bless. Bye-bye now.